Hey guys, it's time to talk about surrender. Okay? I really wanted to do 2 weeks worth of these videos where we would look back and say, hey, this is what God taught us, and now let's go forward and see with hope and joy what the next thing is post-pandemic, we hope. And that's not where God was with me the last few weeks. The last couple weeks, you may have noticed there have been no videos. And that is because God and I were talking it out. He really showed me that we need to look back a little bit more and stay with him in that space a little bit more. And so what was 2 videos had now become 5. And who knows, maybe it's even longer than that. But today we talk about surrender. So I looked surrender up in the dictionary because why not? And it says it's to cease resistance of an opponent and submit to their authority. It's active, right? It's an active surrender. It's not giving up, right? It's a surrender to an authority. And what struck me there is that it's a resistance, like it's from a resistance of an opponent. Like, I don't want to be in resistance to God, right? So hold that, okay? Hold that for a second. And go back with me to the Israelites, okay? So the Israelites are in the desert. They prayed to God to save them from slavery in Egypt, okay? God freed them, brought them out of Egypt. The plagues, the Passover, parting the Red Sea, the pillar of cloud and fire and day and night that he led them with. He even got them across the Red Sea and then rained down manna for them to eat, right? He has provided for them. He provided water for them to drink. He's provided for them. We get to what we're going to talk about today, which is in Numbers, okay? Numbers, the first verse in Numbers, tells us that starts out on the first day of the second month of the second year after they left Egypt. So the Israelites have had some time to sit with this, right? They've had some time to reflect on all that God has done for them. He answered their prayer, right? He answered their prayers in multiple ways, and yet they still grumble. Because it says in verse 11:5, Numbers 11:5, we remember the fish we ate in Egypt at no cost. We also the cucumbers, the melons, the leeks, the onions, and the garlic. It kills me. It kills me. They are looking back at their slavery and being like, oh, we got all the meat we wanted at no cost. No cost? Only your lives, right? Anyway, going on. 14:3b said, wouldn't it be better for us in Egypt? They're still complaining, right? 14:22, God finally, he says to Moses, they can't go into the promised land. Anyone that has seen the signs that he did in Egypt can't go into the promised land, it says in there. That's not a word for word, but look it up. So, and they were trying to take that with them into the promised land. They were trying to take this erroneous thought pattern of what was normal or what was good into the promised land that was truly good. The promised land is where God had promised them, is where they were going. It was a land flowing with milk and honey. That was the good that God had promised them. And they kept looking back at something that was not good and calling it good. And there's so many places in the Bible where God said, stop that, don't do that, get rid of that. And they didn't. And so it came back to just bite them in the butt, right? To poison them again later. If you want to see more examples of that, I am doing the Elijah Bible study from Priscilla Shire, and it is so good. And she talks about that specifically. I want to say week 5 of that. So I highly recommend that Bible study. But it was poisoning them. That thought pattern was poisoning them. And finally God was like, you cannot take that forward, right? So what I want you to think about is this pandemic as eroding some things in us. Think about it like water rushing over rock, and it erodes down to reveal something in the rock that doesn't belong there. So To us, this thing in the rock was gold. It was something that we thought protected us. It was something that we thought we liked or was good. It was a lie that we took in thinking it was truth. And it is this, it's not gold. Right now, we can see it for what it is. It's pyrite, it's fool's gold. And seeing this in our eroded rock, in the state that we're in right now, we can choose to do two things. We can take it out and surrender it to God, or we can pull it back in and run like hell. We're at a crossroads right now. I don't know that there's a bigger crossroads in our lives than the ones right now in the pandemic, because we have two choices to make. So there's a verse in Jeremiah 6:16, and you know what? I'm going to look it up real quick because what I wrote down doesn't make sense. So give me a second. And for all of you who are not, are you new to the Bible or whatever, just notate to yourself, I don't know all the books of the Bible. I just know kind of where they are. I know Jeremiah is after Elijah. There's songs you can learn, and that's good, but I don't know them. Okay, so hang with me. So 6:16, look it up with me, would you? This is what the Lord says. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths, ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. And then it goes on to talk about that they will not walk in it, but stick with the crossroads and the good paths, the ancient paths. That's what we want. We're at a crossroads. We want to take that. And Isaiah 30:21, it says, whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. My guess is that you already know what you need to surrender to God. My guess is that, like me, for instance, God has been talking to me about the thing that I need to surrender for years. And, now that it's uncovered, I have to surrender it. For me, it's a distrust. I distrust God to do the right thing for me, or I'm trying to make my own little world over here where I can be in control and I can trust myself. So therefore this is good. And that's me. That's making an idol of myself. It is putting myself in the way of God. And I can't continue to do that. I mean, if nothing else, the pandemic, I couldn't control any of that, right? You couldn't control any of that. It's not within our control. I have to learn to trust God. I have to trust God in this moment, in this time. I have to. There's no other way around it. So my guess is that you already know what the little exposed rock is. You know what you need to surrender. But Galatians is here to help us out. So Galatians 5:19 says, the acts of the sinful nature are obvious. Sexual immorality, impurity, debauchery, idolatry and witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition and dissensions, factions and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. You list it out, it doesn't sound good, right? But if you actually think about it, it's a lot to sit with, okay? So what it comes down to is I'd rather be like Joshua and Caleb. Joshua and Caleb, they're Israelites. They went into the promised land as spies to look around. And they did see people there that looked like giants. And yet they came out and said they still wanted to go in, that God would provide for them, that God would conquer this land. Because it was the promised land he promised them. And nobody else did. The other spies didn't believe that God would do that for them. And so I'd rather trust God and watch, an expectancy for God to do what he's going to do. In that case, he gave them the land. He dropped the walls of Jericho. And all Caleb and Joshua had to do was walk around the walls. They didn't bomb the walls, they didn't do anything that was going to make it fall. They just trusted. They trusted God. And they surrendered their will to him because he was the one that was going to make it happen. And the ones that didn't were in the wilderness. They never got to go into the promised land. So I'd rather be like Caleb and Joshua and be able to see the walls fall, right? Than spend my life wishing to return to a land of slavery. Let's go forward. Let's surrender the things that we need to surrender and move forward with God. So, guys, I invite you to pray. This was not in my notes, but God, I just pray for everybody that's watching this video. God, I pray, God, that your words will be in their ears and their hearts and not my words. God, I pray, God, that you will reveal whatever the fool's gold is that we've been believing in or that we have put our trust in. And I pray, God, that you will help all of us, me included, to surrender that to you. It's an active work, God. It's an active work to surrender. It's not giving up. It is active, but we know, God, that you are faithful and that you are good and that you are loving. God, you're amazing, and we thank you. Romans 12, 1-2 says, "Therefore, I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spirited act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good and pleasing and perfect will." Give up whatever God is calling you to give up. It's you are the only one that knows what it is. But don't let that be, don't let the devil manipulate it. Don't think, well, I don't even know what it would be, but only you and God know. And that's what I leave you with, guys. Pray, ask God. He's already showing you. You are amazing. Have an amazing week. Bye.